You're listening to Friday Live on Nebraska Public Media. Support for programming comes from the Lead Center for Performing Arts, bringing Sweden's Gunhild Carling to Lincoln on February 20th for a night of swing. Carling is known for playing over 15 instruments and has been a featured player in Scott Bradley's Postmodern Jukebox. Tickets on sale now, leadcenter.org. Hi, I'm Lori Adams, here today representing the Nebraska Repertory Theater. I am the director of the upcoming show Tigers Be Still by Kim Rosenstock. And with me in the studio today is...
Hi, I'm Kevin Hoffeditz. I'm playing the part of Joseph in Tigers Be Still, as Laurie said, by Kim Rosenstock, who was the creative force and writer behind the sitcom New Girl, which was made quite a sensation a few years ago. And there's a lot of her creativity and her turn of phrase in this production as well.
Yes, I thought about, as I read this show for the first time, there's sort of a wacky, sort of comic bent to things that can be very serious topic. And for this show, it's a very serious topic because it deals with depression and mental health and mental illness. And yet she leads us very adeptly through the humor of what that might be and the profound sadness of what that might be. And so we've had a really good time, haven't we, Keith?
We have. It's actually, to say that a play on that subject matter is charming, but it's so charming about the way these characters, some who are related to each other, others who aren't, how they come into each other's lives and find ways to support each other while they themselves need some sort of fixing too, and to see the characters walk these fine lines between taking care of themselves emotionally and psychologically, but taking care of these people that they come into contact with. It's kind of beautiful.
Yes, it really was. It really is a wonderful play, and it was written in 2010, which when I started researching about that, it sort of made sense that, we're coming out of the 2008 crisis and all these, terrible things. So the country's starting to right itself, and so there's a hope to it, and I think she translates that beautifully to the play.
There is, and there's some period music and some period references to movies and whatnot that I think audiences will enjoy a lot.
Anyway, I hope you can join us. The play, Tigers Be Still, runs at the Nebraska Repertory Theater February 19th through March 1st. And again, my name is Lori Adams, and I'm the director of this production.
And tickets are available through nebraskarep.org. It is in the Studio Theater in the Temple Building on campus. I'm Kevin Hoffeditz. Hope you come see it.
Hey there, my name is Christian Frost. I am a member of the acting company from New York City. We're going to be performing at the Ramsey Theater at Wayne State. We're going to be performing two plays in rep, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, written by Nicki Massoud, and A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. Both will be performing on the same day in repertory, meaning we're going to be doing them back to back. And in Great Expectations, I play a number of roles, mainly the minor supporting villainous characters. And then in A Midsummer Night's Dream, I am playing Demetrius and Peter Quince. Now, these are two very different shows. Great Expectations is based off a Charles Dickens book. It's set in the early 1800s, whereas A Midsummer Night's Dream takes place in ancient Athens. But with Midsummer, we've modernized it. We set it today to kind of make it more accessible to audience, and we've shortened it. Midsummer has now become a 90-minute slapstick screwball comedy. Lovers, fairies, and wannabe actors running into the woods to try and figure out some issues, and then a bunch of magic happening and madness ensues. It is a delightful romp. It is super colorful, hilarious, laugh out loud, great for anyone. And that's probably my favorite thing about that one in particular is I've seen, kids in kindergarten crying, laughing from the show, and I have seen Grandma Jane cry laughing from the show. And on the flip side, we have Great Expectations, which is, as I said, it's a newer adaptation for this older tale. And this work examines this boy's life as he's influenced by different social classes that are above him and trying to instill all of these expectations onto him to become this kind of well-rounded individual. Is something I love about the show is that it's this very Dickensian. It is very big, drab, brutalistic almost. And we kind of fill in the world of this one boy's life with these different characters and people and settings. And we kind of bring the color to the world rather than the world supporting that kind of color, because it was very drab and dreary, as we all know back then. If you're interested, come on down to the Ramsey Theater at Wayne State. Again, I'm Christian Frost with the Acting Company. Thanks so much.
I'm Holly Kennedy. I'm the director.
And I'm Dawn Reimers. I'm the assistant director. Sarah Plain and Tall takes place at the Yorkshire Theater in York, Nebraska, February 13th, 19th, and 20th at 7:30 p.m. and February 14th, 15th, and 22nd at 2 p.m.
Sarah Plain and Tall is a very sweet, heartwarming, wholesome story about building a new family and about the grief and the different friendships and relationships that take place along that road of healing.
This is just a great piece to just celebrate intergenerational relationships, but also as a performance studio, we build intergenerational relationships so that it can continue to have future endeavors within the art with each generation.
I'm Holly Kennedy.
I am Dawn Reimers. I am an assistant director. Holly is the director. The play is Sarah Plain and Tall, taking place at the Yorkshire Playhouse in York, Nebraska, with performance dates and times of February 13th, 19th, and 20th at 7:30 p.m. and February 14th, 15th, and 22nd at 2 p.m.
Hi, this is Tyler Rennie from Community Players and Beatrice, and we have upcoming Quiz at our theater. This is based on a true story of a scandal that happened on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it plays at Community Players February 13th through the 22nd. This show tells the story of an Army major, his wife, and a coughing accomplice who were accused of cheating to win the jackpot on the UK version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So it takes place not only during that appearance on the game show, but at the jury trial afterwards and many moments in between as well. This is Tyler Rennie with Community Players in Beatrice, and we are presenting Quiz February 13th through the 22nd.
A really fun roundup of all kinds of theater productions going on around the state in York and Beatrice and more. You're listening to Friday Live here on listener-supported Nebraska Public Media. Denise Bookwalter and Lee Emma Running have been working together for 12 years on artists' books, textiles, garments, and prints, with projects such as lining, sheathing, and fashioning. The two have delved into textiles and our relationship with things like clothing. Now, the two have collaborated again to bring about Float. It's an exhibition available to see at the Kimmel Harding Nelson Center for the Arts in Nebraska City, and it runs until February 26th. So I am joined here today by both of these artists. Denise and Lee, how are you today?
Great.
Wonderful. Nice to be here.
This will be a fun discussion. I love talking about textiles, and we don't get to do it enough. How did the two of you begin collaborating?
I used to be a professor at Grinnell College, and Denise has been a professor at Florida State University for a long time. And we were both teaching at an organization called PBI, which stands for the Paper and Book Intensive. And we were both brought in to be faculty one summer. And one of the beauties of PBI is that it's a really democratic structure. They want faculty to take classes as well as teach classes. So we were able to take each other's class. And we also worked as professors, as faculty in that environment. And we were just both such mutual fans. I've just been such a fan of Denise's work for so long. And we stayed up all night, almost every night, just talking about all the things that we wanted to make together. And that was really the beginning of the collaboration.
And so then I invited her to Florida. And from there, we started making artist books.
How do you continue to collaborate when you're so many states away?
We usually travel to see each other. We travel to residencies. We've been at residencies in Cleveland, in North Carolina, in Nebraska. Lee travels to Florida. I travel to wherever Lee is. When we're together, we work long hours. and get a lot of work done. But we also communicate a lot over Zoom and phone. I think Lee and I used all of these internet
Well, we better tell our listeners what it is that they're expecting from all of this collaboration and logistics here. Tell me about the name Float. Where did that come from?
A lot of the names for the work come about how the images come together. Lining was a book about the lining inside clothing, and Fashioning was a book about structure, and Sheathing was an installation, not a book, but it happened in between those two books, and that was really about structure and environment. So we started building an environment around some of these same ideas. And Float is really about floating images on top of each other and floating pieces of textile in relationship to each other, but not into a physical garment. So this idea of things that are sort of in between. And the structure of the exhibition is also between two projects. We're sort of between books right now. And so Float is a lot of the ephemera that we've built up in this collaboration, sort of in between.
So as people come into the Kimmel Harding Nelson Center, what can they expect to see? Give us a sort of sense of place there, visual description.
You walk right in, and right in front of you is one of the books, right up against the window. It is a book that opens up to a whole series of purple pages that have rubbings of embroidery from clothing. It feels like it becomes a focal point, and then you spread out to see some of the other prints that are prints on paper, prints on leather, prints from textiles that require close viewing in this lovely space that provides that kind of experience. You can stand right next to the objects to see the prints, to experience the book. I believe when we do the talk, we'll be able to handle the artist book, which is artist books are supposed to be read and viewed. And so many times we see them in exhibitions, they're under glass as art objects, more as sculptural pieces. But when you have an opportunity to actually handle the book, that's the way that artists intended to be viewed. As you turn the pages, as you touch the materials, and Leah and I are really interested in materials. So we hope people have a chance to actually come and interact with that book.
You probably are very well aware that where I'm sitting right now talking to you, I am just a block or so away from the International Quilt Museum. And thinking about these clothes, it also reminds me of quilts people used to make using clothes from members of their family, that there's a history there. And the description of the exhibition also says clothing retains the story of the wearer, but this is in just such a different way. What are the stories being told?
The stories are really about the body very much and the maker. When we think about who made the garment and or who wore the garment or who used the garment, those stories are in those garments, whether we know who they are or not. And so we really think about that relationship with the wearer, with the maker, and what that story is. And here, I think it's so much about material and the maker, and trying to just, a lot of times those makers are unknown or not represented, but you can see them within the stitches, within the folds. Maybe we see the mark of the wearer in the clothing based on how it was used or how it was worn, how it's tattered. And those are a lot of the moments that we're really interested in.
But Denise and I are both makers in such a profound way. And I think it really is how we know each other, is by making side by side and making with each other for so many years. Like, I feel like I know Denise's eye and hand so well from this time that we've spent together. And I think we can also see that evidence in these garments, looking at how the garments are made, how the seams are structured, how the darts are pulled. You know, there's such an interesting way of thinking about a garment as architecture. And the book is such an architectural object too. Books are structured and really built from the inside out. And I think we are often trying to reveal that interior labor inside the garments.
Float is what we've been talking about here, and that exhibition is available to see at the Kimmel Harding Nelson Center for the Arts. That's in Nebraska City and is up through February 26th. Also, there is an artist talk. That's February 19th, where Lee, one of my guests here, will be present to talk about the exhibition and answer questions. Denise and Lee, thank you for chatting with me today. A wonderful discussion.
Thank you so much for having us. And Denise will be here too for the talk. So the talk is at 5, the 19th, and we'll both be there for viewing and talking and questions.
Okay, excellent. So both of you, Denise Bookwalter and Lee Running. To learn more about this, be sure to visit the Friday Live page. That's online, nebraskapublicmedia.org. A librarian's day is not always quiet. For Martha Hickson, a high school librarian in New Jersey, her life changed at a school board meeting a few years ago when an organized group of about 30 people showed up.
They had 2 books in hand. One was Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. The other was Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison. They also decided they were going to complain about the librarian who selected the books and who had up a display about Banned Books Week. And in doing so, they labeled me by name a pornographer, pedophile, and groomer of children. This took place in September of 2021, and that made me among the very first librarians in the country to be swept up in this unprecedented surge of book banning.
A new PBS documentary called The Librarians follows the nationwide attempt to ban books from libraries and the people who are fighting back. All About Books host Pat Leach talked with the film's director, Kim Snyder, and librarian Martha Hickson. Find their interview online, nebraskapublicmedia.org/allaboutbooks. You can watch the PBS Independent Lens documentary on television this Sunday at 10 p.m. Central. Support for programming on Nebraska Public Media comes from Abend Music, presenting My Funny Valentine, a nostalgic concert of music from the Great American Songbook with Tom Trenny. Participants may add their ticket to a gourmet meal, chocolates or roses delivered to their door, online only, Saturday, February 14th at 7 p.m. Tickets at abendmusic.org. Next here on Friday Live, the word Gurukulam dates back as far as 1000 BCE and refers to a traditional system of education created within India. So taking that idea, Gurukulam in Omaha is striving to cultivate and promote Indian classical arts and the young artists who practice them. One form of that art is the Indian classical dance known as Bharatanatyam. And on Saturday, February 21st from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Jewish Community Center in the Alan J. Levine Performing Arts Center, Gurukulam is putting on an event where Indian classical dance will be front and center. Today, for more about this, I am joined by Malika Maduri, the artistic director for the Gurukulam Center for Indian Arts in Omaha. Malika, great to have you with me on Friday Live.
Thank you so much, Genevieve, for having me, and namaste to everyone.
Namaste. Well, how about we begin by telling us more about Gurukulam Omaha as well as Bharatanatyam?
Well, Gurukulam Omaha was established about 11 years back as a formal school. When I started the school, it was just a dance school imparting Bharatanatyam, and I'll come to Bharatanatyam in a bit as a dance school. But then I thought we don't have a center for art and culture, a go-to for such a huge and vibrant population of Indians that we have in Omaha. So I thought, then I came upon the word Gurukulam Center for Indian Arts and Culture. It's Indian arts, but it also extends to culture. The whole approach changed where I slowly, while the main focus is on dance and Bharatanatyam, the approach is from a holistic cultural perspective, where anybody who is curious to learn about Indian art and culture can approach, ask questions, learn, and feel good about it. Bharatanatyam is a dance form. It's one of the 8 classical dance forms of India. It's one of the oldest dance forms, and it is based on the performing arts treatise called Natya Shastra, which was written probably some 3 to 5,000 years back. And it's a compilation of the rules of aesthetics. So you would see even the Greek theater, the Russian ballet, take any performing arts as of today, would trace back its roots to Natya Shastra. And from there, Bharatanatyam also came. And that is what is being still practiced today as any Indian cultural, lineage that we sustain and continue.
And you yourself also have a background in diverse Indian classical dance forms. How did you first get into dance?
Just because I'm a very hyperactive kid, the last of the three. My sister used to go to dance classes back in India. We used to have a kind of what we called a club, a space. And our dance teacher used to come there and teach. And my mother used to send my sister, and then she just couldn't handle me anymore. And she was like, she would kind of try to spend my energy there and come back. So that's how my journey started. But I didn't realize the value of the learning I was getting till I reached my current mentor, Mrs. Vijay Marthanda, my guru, whom I owe a lot in my life. Every recognition, every learning, everything I owe it to her. And then she sort of mentored me. She introduced myself to me, my love for dance. That's what she made me aware of what my longing through these lifetimes have been. And she gave me a direction in my life. And that's what a guru does. It's not like teaching ABCDs of a subject, but gives a direction, then shows the path, gives a direction, then you walk it. That's what you do. So then my interest in dance started. I wanted to learn more, explore more. So I started learning Kuchipudi from another national award-winning teacher. It's another form of Indian classical dance. And later in life, because I was so adept and good at whatever I was doing, I thought I need to challenge myself, and I started learning a whole new classical dance form. One thing I always believe is, when you are in that student mode, even though whatever you're doing as a profession, I teach, I have mentored hundreds of students in Omaha. But if my approach is that of a student, I will be able to constantly learn. It gives that humility.
Always learning, always teaching, and it's just cyclical, I see. Yeah.
Yes.
How far across the state does your organization reach? Where all could people see your performers?
Anywhere. Basically, if anybody invites us, we are touring. We're actively touring. We're happy to go. We're happy to perform. We have performed as far as Atlanta. This year, we will be going to Boston as well. We are working out details to perform in Australia and UK and Poland as we speak. And also all across Omaha. We'll be performing in Omaha Central Library pretty soon. We performed at the State Capitol building at Lincoln, so we'll be performing there this year as well. Later this year, October 19th to be precise. And very many places, like wherever the art festivals happen, we are applying, we are getting through. And wherever event organizers are wanting Indian classical dance to be part of their events, we are there as well. So really no restrictions. We are very happy to travel and showcase our art form.
Well, what can someone who attends this event coming up at the Jewish Community Center, what can they expect to see?
We have very, very many talented dancers in India, but of course you can't always travel, go there to get an experience. So when you come to this event on February 21st, you will get a beautiful glimpse into what Bharatanatyam means in a 1 to 2 hour span, and a variety of pieces in that repertoire. How does an invocation feel like? How do we pray and respect our gods and gurus in an artistic and an aesthetic manner? How the whole dress looks like, just experience that Indian culture and art form through these dances is what I would say. And these dancers are very, very talented. They are state young artist award winners for Bharatanatyam. I think that's a big deal, because in a big state where there is not as much awareness about Indian art and culture, I think they have worked tremendously hard, and they have not just worked on their art form and their talents, but also to spread the word. They've gone out and about showcasing their art and culture. So for that, they have been recognized by the state as Young Artist Awardees. So I think that's a beautiful experience that one would get to have and enjoy Indian art form.
And to enjoy, as Malika said, the 2023 Nebraska Arts Awards winners. Yes, I noticed that in the information I looked up. Well, I've been talking here with Malika about Gurukulam Omaha. They will be putting on their Bharatanatyam performance on February 21st. That's from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Jewish Community Center in Omaha. And my guest is Malika Maduri, the artistic director there for the Gurukulam Center for Indian Arts. Malika, what a pleasure. Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope everybody comes and enjoys this show.
And as always, there will be links to more information and details on our Friday Live page. Find that at nebraskapublicmedia.org.
This is Friday Live with Genevieve.
This is Twyla Hansen, and this morning I'm going to read you a few poems, and I'll start with How to Feed the Birds. Each morning, pull on boots, down, hat, and mittens. With arms full, step out back into snow, greet gusts straight from Saskatchewan, crunch step on the empty shell mulch. Fill each feeder, thistle, black-oiled safflower. Check the upside-down hanging suet as a woodpecker rattles, hurry, hurry, up the ladder of trunk, and a chickadee seconds. It's 7 above. By degrees, the sun muscles in today. With an ungloved hand, swish out the water in the heated dish, empty, refill. Retreat to the house quick. Rub your fingers above the stove. It's warmth from the trees you planted. Watch the pine for movement, for the owls that might be nesting, their hoots of homing you've heard after dark. Note the evergreens, the lofted bird hotels, the thicket now bare, revealing last year's nests. Watch for fur or feathers, tracks leading to the compost pile, now emptied of last night's scraps. The birds return, black-capped, red-crowned, ladderback, their blues and russets and golds. Even the sparrows, brown and nameless, bunch in approval. It's 10 above. The fire pops and snaps. Count your riches as you gaze toward the empty playhouse, swings and seesaw, until you hear the squeals and chatter, perceive their dim movements, the children who are now grown. Without blinking, stare until the sun reflected off snow waters your eyes. Abandon the notion that you own one single thing. The second poem I'm going to read for you today is My Granddaughter Sick. All day the house, as if holding its breath. I kiss the top of her fevered head, her hair fine as milkweed fluff, delicate like chick down. Meanwhile, the moon, a heavy saucer, reclines pale and cumbersome above the tree line, this chilled horizon brittle with bare limbs. She sleeps, earth moving on its tiptoes, planets in their unblinking vigil. Out on the lake, ice pings and twangs its thick, hard water blues. By morning, there will be a shift in the jet stream, an upswing of wind clean out of the south. Birds will tweet a brighter tune. Once again, the quick red fox will dart to safety. Thank you.
Twyla Hansen read How to Feed the Birds and My Granddaughter, Sick. Hansen was Nebraska State Poet from 2013 until 2018. Raised in northeast Nebraska on land her grandparents farmed as Danish immigrants, she now resides in Lincoln on her wooded and wild-flowered acre of urban wildlife habitat.
Thanks for listening here to Friday Live on Nebraska Public Media. This week on the Friday Live Extra, we had a conversation with Junction Trio member Conrad Tao, as well as with the competition director of Nebraska Snow Sculpting about the upcoming state championship. Hear these conversations by heading to the Friday Live page at nebraskapublicmedia.org. Support for programming comes from the Ross, opening this weekend from director Jim Jarmusch. Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, an intimate exploration of the complications found in family dynamics. Also opening is Rental Family. Brendan Fraser stars as an American actor struggling to find purpose in modern Tokyo. Tonight only is Moonstruck with Nicolas Cage and Cher. TheRoss.org. Glad to have you with us here. I am joined next by an awesome crew with details about the next Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra concert, which is tonight at the Lead Center for Performing Arts. Guest soloist playing viola on a concerto on the concert is Rita Porphyris. The composer of that concerto is Julia Adolph, and that piece, plus Finlandia and Scheherazade, will all be conducted by Ed Polachek. A full studio with all three of you here. Welcome this morning.
Oh, it's great to be back. Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back.
Rita, we've got this interesting collaboration here with you on this new concerto. What is that collaboration process like for this piece, Unearth Release?
Well, I was so pleased to be contacted by Ed and Barbara about this piece because I love playing contemporary music by living composers. I think it's really important to, expand the repertoire for my poor neglected little instrument.
It's not so little.
Okay, it's a big giant instrument, actually. Yeah, okay, it's much bigger than a violin. It burns longer. But anyway, and we do, as violists, we do a lot of contemporary music, but I was so happy to see Julia's piece and to hear her music, not only the viola concerto, but some of her orchestra pieces, which have been played recently by Boston and New York Philharmonic and Philadelphia, I think. Is that right? LA, yes. So, she's got some great champions here, and the piece is absolutely beautiful, and I hope it becomes a staple of our repertoire.
A beautiful name, too, Unearth Release, I got to say.
I love that title, because it's an active title. It denotes the action, and the piece absolutely describes what that is all about. And I'm going to let Julia describe because she obviously knows so much about this. But I have to just put my 2 cents in saying that I agree totally with what Rita just said, and I think it will become a staple within the viola repertoire. And in fact, I'm probably going to be putting it on my principal viola audition list.
Thank you. Quite the compliments for you, Julia, here this morning from Ed Polachek. I wanted to bring something else up for listeners, too, because I don't know if I mentioned before, I didn't in my intro, I don't think. We did a pre-concert chat, and that is out there as well if you want to learn more about all of this. We had a really nice discussion about your piece, Julia. But a couple of years ago, you studied the connections between therapeutic and creative processes at the Boston Psychoanalytic Society and Institute as an Ecker Fellow. What was that experience like, and how did it affect the music that you compose?
Oh, yes. I've had a deep interest in therapy and psychology really since I was a child. My dad actually encouraged me to start writing down my dreams when I was 6. So I have my dream journal from when I was 6 years old. And I think sort of he fostered within me, a real connection to my unconscious and subconscious, and it's such an important part of the creative process. The reason I got involved with the Boston Psychoanalytic Institute is because I have a real passion for destigmatizing mental illness, specifically within the classical music community, where I feel like, in the world at large, in our culture at large, there is a lot about, self-care and understanding, anxiety, depression, postpartum depression. I just had a child and went through that. And so I started to basically talk publicly about my own struggles with generalized anxiety disorder. And that's something I started in 2020 during my free time in the pandemic. And actually, this piece really does explore my relationship with my anxiety. That's actually a big part. I've actually not really shared that publicly before, but I think you can hear that a lot. And part of the title is about taking what's inside of you and unearthing it, understanding who you are inside, and then bringing that out into the world. So I wanted to kind of study that in this more formal way at the Boston Psychoanalytic Institute. And it was specifically a program, a crossover between where they partnered artists with psychoanalysts, and we explored the connections.
Wow, Julia, we are sisters in the anxiety disorder thing. I know people think that's hard to believe when you're as public as a person is on the radio, but I do think also music is healing. I'm curious to hear from each of you, actually, ways in which you feel music can be healing or explore healing.
Well, I find that I'm really not the same person when I'm not writing music. I found that particularly during this postpartum phase that I really needed to be writing every day, and not necessarily, yes, I had deadlines, but, I was on maternity leave, and I still felt like I needed to it's just the way that I express myself. It's something that I can't really live without. And I become a much more anxious person when I am not setting aside that time to be creative and to play. Because really, when you think about why we all fell in love with music to begin with, it was probably as a child playing with an instrument, listening and dancing. And so I think a big part of healing and the healing power of music is when you reconnect with your childhood love and of playing with music.
I know this resonates with you, Ed.
Yes, it very, very strongly. It's my go-to, obviously. It's been my medicine. It's been my food. It's been the barometer that's helped me through so many situations. And it has this incredible, it's an incredible intellectual connection. There's no question about music, but the emotional connection with, and the spiritual connection with music to me, that journey into that realm never, ever ends. And as I've had the privilege of getting older, while I've been still practicing my art, it becomes even more important to my soul. And so, I think, enough said, I would echo everything that you said, Julia, about that.
Rita?
Absolutely. I agree with Julia. I am actually a different person, not as a violist. Believe it or not, I'm cripplingly shy, just so much social anxiety, but something about putting a viola in my, makes me become a different person, and I think you can live a different life through that. And just explore different things. So I've always done that since I started on violin, and but definitely with the viola,
An amazing piece to explore this through. And then, Ed, you have paired this with a couple of other really great pieces, Scheherazade, Rimsky-Korsakov, and then starting the concert with Finlandia. What makes Finlandia a great piece to start this concert with?
Well, part of it is the fact that it's, that kind of Eastern European flavor, because I knew I wanted to do I hadn't done the Scheherazade by the Russian composer Rimsky-Korsakov in a while, and I like the pairing of that kind of Eastern European aspect of things. And Finlandia is a piece I haven't done. Gosh, it's just been decades, and many people have asked about that piece over the years, because I've been here a long time now, I remember I was here before we celebrated our 75th anniversary, and next year's our centennial. So, I've been here for over a quarter of a century, and I thought, this might be the time to actually pull that piece out and do it. I think it's so incredibly popular because of the chorale, which is formed the hymn, Be Still My Soul. But I also just love the way Sibelius was able to make that, intertwine that in a kind of pretty spectacular piece. And it goes without saying that the Scheherazade is one of the greatest of the symphonic repertoire that we can have, that in a certain way is kind of a concerto for orchestra, in that there are so many soloists throughout, from your principal winds and major second trombone solo, trumpet, percussion, cello, harp, and how could we forget our concertmaster Anton, who plays it like nobody else. You talk about this couple, because it just turns out that Anton and Rita are married, and the way their music reaches into my heart, it just, I'd have to say, Be Still My Soul.
See, look at this.
It's true.
And there is so much more to learn about this as well. I'll mention once again that my three guests here this morning and I are in a pre-concert chat, which is already out there floating around on the internet, on YouTube, or the YouTubes, as my generation likes to say. Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra has entitled their concert tonight, Experience the Intrigue. And my guests here have been Rita Porphyris, Julia Adolphe, who has composed this beautiful viola concerto, and Ed Polachek, who is conducting all of this music here tonight. Thank you to all three of you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And as always, find more about this performance tonight at 7:30 and everything that you've heard about here this morning on Friday Live by going to nebraskapublicmedia.org. Thanks so much for listening to Friday Live here on Nebraska Public Media. Coming up this morning, we've got music from Nebraska's stages on Nebraska Concerts, hosted by Laura Black. And this afternoon, Penelope Morrow celebrates the weekend and brings you classics by request. Be sure to visit the Nebraska Public Media website for podcasts of our show, nebraskapublicmedia.org. Portions of Friday Live are pre-recorded. Friday Live is not possible without the collaboration of Brendan Rook, Phoenix Carroll, KJ Tedder, Cole McEwen, of course, listeners who become members of the station, and associate producer Arthur Jones. I'm Genevieve Randall. Everything we do at Nebraska Public Media is possible only with members who donate. This podcast version of our weekly radio show Friday Live, podcasts of our television show Backyard Farmer, and so much more, all of it is thanks to donors, underwriters, and other private support. You can support Nebraska Public Media online at nebraskapublicmedia.org.